Hello again, YouTubers. On with SpongeBob 101 back here again on the SpongeBob channel. Today we have our Camp Coral episode review for episode 17, Camp Crossbones and A Jelly Life. The synopsis states, after SpongeBob, Patrick, and Sandy are banned from playing pirate outside, they decide to turn their cabin into a pirate ship. Also, SpongeBob pretends to be a jellyfish for research purposes. Both of these episodes I really like, so let's get right into it. Camp Crossbones features a whole lot of pirate shenanigans, and the episode as a whole was really silly and entertaining. We start off in the dingy cabin where SpongeBob plays Squarebeard, Patrick plays Peghead Pat, and Sandy plays Captain One-Eyed Sandy. Why didn't they just bring in Plankton for that? Anyways, the three of them are aiming to get the pirate badge by playing pirate. And Patrick's probably my favorite character throughout the episode, given how silly he is intentionally made to be. Don't get me started on him having a toilet plunger on his head for the entire episode. They start brawling and interrupt Craig Hamilton's soccer game and accidentally burst a ball, with Patrick offering a skull as a replacement, and yeah, the skull can talk. They then make their way over to the watchtower, where Patrick has the time of his life, walking right off and falling to the ground. They soon spot Mr. Krabs hauling and burying a literal treasure chest in the woods, and so they think they've hit the jackpot, and Patrick gets to work digging, using SpongeBob as a shovel. Turns out all they dug up was Pearl's dirty diapers, and Krabs ends up forbidding them from playing pirate since he's scarred from his experience as a kid being kicked out of the pirate playpen at what seems to be a restaurant. So poor Mr. Krabs and his sad childhood memory, but Sandy ain't gonna give up just so easily. The episode doesn't tell you what the next goal of the three of them is, since they can't get their pirate badges anymore, but they nonetheless continue playing pirate and turn the entire cabin into the pirate ship SS Dingy, going cabin to cabin and pilfering everyone else's hard-earned badges. Basically all the main cabins, including that of Bubble Bass, Larry, the Upturns, and even the Anchovies, are dragged into battle, and things go fairly successfully. There is, however, a hint to the ending in Bubble Bass's cabin where SpongeBob hands out receipts. Pirates don't typically do that when robbing folks on the high seas. It's a pretty cool hint. Fast forward to the sandy hills outside of camp. I like the fact that SpongeBob was just sitting there chilling and looking at the jellyfishing badge he's still unable to get. Perhaps he'll get it someday. Nonetheless, they spot the camp counselors and Camp Master Krabs charging towards them in their own pirate quote-unquote ship. Strangely, Squidward was missing from the entire episode. I don't know why they just left him out on Krabs' ship. The Upturns hoisted the sails, Larry manned the cannons, and Bubble Bass just sat around reading his comic books. But Krabs does seem to have the upper hand, and yeah, really, they do. I mean, they're adults, right? They swap ships for a bit in a misunderstanding before the real battle begins. SpongeBob and friends are nonetheless quickly captured, and he finally explains what they were even doing. It turns out they decided to go for the badge washing shining badge instead, which was on the page right behind the one Krabs tore out off the camp manual earlier in the episode. Krabs doesn't accept this explanation, but the crew basically mutiny and take down Krabs, so wow, what a turn of events, right? The episode ends with Pirate Mania in Camp Coral, and SpongeBob and Sandy hand out pirate badges to everyone, courtesy of Patrick, who cuts them out of Mr. Krabs' underwear. Wow. But really, this episode is actually really nice in my opinion. This episode does borrow some themes from previous SpongeBob episodes, including Grandpappy the Pirate from Season 6 and Mutiny on the Krusty from Season 9. The plot's theme is downright awesome, so I'll give it a 9 out of 10. I particularly like the manufactured conflict between the dingy cabin and Captain Krabs. As for animation, this gets 9 out of 10 as well. My favorite scenes were definitely the invasion of the other cabins, plus the final showdown with Captain Krabs, but still there were so many epic Patrick moments, from him swallowing the telescope and then choking it up and putting it back in, to the wounds on his backside caused by the live skull. Unique characteristics gets a 9 out of 10 as well, on top of the very well executed pirate theme, which we haven't really seen much use of aside from the occasional reference that Mr. Krabs is of a pirate nature. There is a scene where SpongeBob is putting up a figurehead on the SS Dingy. that looks really similar to Mindy from the first SpongeBob movie. And if it really is, that is a very cool reference. Overall, the writers made full use of each character's skills, and we finally saw Sandy's lasso again. Overall, Camp Crossbones gets 27 out of 30 from me. Moving on to The Jelly Life. This might be my favorite episode of Camp Coral thus far, and it can be seen as a continuation of the pilot episode, The Jellyfish Kid. The episode begins in Jelly Meadows, where Sandy and SpongeBob jointly operate Sandy's new submarine, the Jelly Angler, in order for SpongeBob to catch his first jellyfish. Unfortunately, despite going through a giant cluster of jellyfish with a giant net, SpongeBob somehow still fails. So some campers start laughing at SpongeBob only to get blasted with exhaust from the sub. They then fight back, pelting the Jelly Angler with rocks. This immediately made me think of the rocks being thrown at Plankton's sub in 20,000 Patties Under the Sea from Season 5. The sub does go haywire and oxygen masks come down in a pretty funny way despite the emergency situation where the mask shows Patrick in the exact way he ends up in real life, being tangled with the oxygen mask cables. Unfortunately, the sub blows and Patrick abandons fish because it's an angler, right? And SpongeBob just ejects out. Also, fire underwater again. That's pretty cool. So this is where Sandy gives SpongeBob a tape machine and encourages him to study jellyfish in the wild to learn more about them, and this is absolutely brilliant. SpongeBob starts his learning journey by trying to converse with the jellies but gets zapped. He decides he needs to go a step further, making himself a makeshift jellyfish costume and then return to the meadows where SpongeBob is still seen as an outcast. He does try mimicking the jellyfish's actions and hilariously cartwheels off a cliff. One of the funniest moments in the episode. SpongeBob does get trapped in coral, and this is when Patrick shows up, calling SpongeBob Big Ugly and whipping out a horrifyingly dangerous looking jellyfish net. Patrick charges at SpongeBob to catch him, and this segment really reminds me of what Patrick did hunting SpongeBob in Nature Pans way back in Season 1. There's even an explosion once the net hits SpongeBob. Seriously, what's up with the explosions nowadays? SpongeBob is easily caught, but Patrick thinks he messed up the jellyfish's face and throws some cash at SpongeBob as compensation. Is it just me, or does Patrick have a lot of money in this spin-off series? The jellyfish return to steal the cash, but they do offer to show SpongeBob the ways of the jellyfish, which, of course, SpongeBob is delighted by. He is trained by Sensei Buzz Buzz in jellyfish net evasion, but unfortunately he never gets to learn how to zap others. I really like SpongeBob's narration throughout the episode, by the way. It's a really cool feature of this episode. SpongeBob does return to Camp Coral soon to report his findings, where they literally roll out the red carpet for him, thinking he's like the biggest jellyfish ever. Dancing on the carpet does cause SpongeBob to build up static electricity, and despite thinking that he can't zap anyone, he ends up zapping Squidward and launching Squidward into the sky. Shocked by this, he runs away from camp, thinking he is a hazard and an outcast. Or as SpongeBob says, a sponge without a country in the country. Because Jelly Meadows in the country, right? This is when Patrick returns for round 2, only to realize that jellies on the inside look like SpongeBob and literally has his head blown up in true Patrick fashion. Obviously, jellies don't look like SpongeBob on the inside, but you get what I mean. So 1 week later, SpongeBob and Patrick are back in Jelly Meadows, with the former simply choosing to jelly watch, wondering if the jellyfish remember him, and of course they do. I mean, he's pretty iconic, right? So this episode is absolutely fantastic. The plot deserves a 10 out of 10. With SpongeBob growing from simply being dejected that he can't catch a single jellyfish to becoming a jellyfish expert and appreciating them beyond just catching them in nets. The addition of Patrick in this episode was hilariously ridiculous, but the callback to Nature Pans was awesome. Hopefully we'll get more updates on the jellyfishing situation in the future. Animation was once again excellent. It gets 9 out of 10, with some of the best scenes being those of Patrick, as well as the training scenes with the jellyfish. unique characteristics gets 10 out of 10. Allowing SpongeBob to narrate his own journey and experiences for once is one of the coolest things that we've gotten out of Kamp Koral, not to mention the many references to past SpongeBob episodes. Overall, The Jelly Life gets 29 out of 30 from me. That's about it for this review of episode number 17. Let me know in the comments box what you guys thought about these two episodes. Make sure to subscribe and like, and I'll see you guys again real soon for the next Kamp Koral episode review. Till then, bye!